Welcome back YouTubers to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I'm Aspie. I'm all about creating mental health and awareness and sharing my life stories for Aspergers Syndrome, OCD and the like, along with basically tips and advice along the way with your general health versus your mental health. It's been brought to my attention and said that I'm trying to bring out as many of the broad spectrum of the variety of topics of the autism and also on the lowdown that at the moment the other stuff that is promised is on hold at the moment. And also as a heads up to all, just to let you know that there will be some changes here and there that you will likely to see as of now until whenever I decide to go about doing those plans as suggested in my video about what my plans are for the future. Even though I'm trying to embrace this change, even though this one is going to be based on the changes of this change series, Autism and Change series, basically. So my question is basically for you guys is, before we begin this, is for the ones that are autistic or not, or just people in general that doesn't like change, what do you do about the change? Do you have a hissy fit and just throw in there, tell them call it quits, or do you have a managing technique system put into place for yourself to cope with these strategies of change in your everyday life as you use the transit from child to adult? Please let me know in the comments below, as well as many others, so that we can actually start this forum of discussion. So as you know, no matter what we go through in our everyday life, there are bound to be a lot of changes, and the question is, we should be questioning ourselves, are we usually that ready for the changes and advancement? People with ASD don't seem to like change, however, and whenever that happens, there are always changes to whatever it may be that will make life really daunting for them, for the ones that are on the spectrum, along with not knowing if they're not prepared for these everyday changes that comes into play. That will then also lead to recipe for disaster here and there about basically all the types and pieces of what we're going to do. So basically in this, I'm going to cover what is change, of the definition, why people on the spectrum doesn't like change. Some may like change, some may not, and hopefully basically along with all this, I'm going to hopefully share briefly about my experiences about change, and maybe a few tips and advice along the way from the friendly Aspie here, if you want it, know about it. And also just remember, as a disclaimer as always, I'm no medical doctor, so if you see any medical signs or symptoms in the previous videos or any of the videos that has been clearly shared so far, do seek professional help and seek an opinion for yourself or your loved one. I don't forever condone self-harm. So let's begin this. As we know, basically, like many words that we look in the dictionary, changes many different definitions along the way in the dictionary, depending on what we're looking for, right? So therefore, change. So what is it? Change is defined as the following: a verb used with object, change, changing. 1. To make the form, nature, content, future, course, etc. of something different from what it is or from what it would be to be left alone. To change one's name, or to change one's matter of opinion, to change the course of history. 2. To transfer or convert, usually followed by into, or hearsay maybe, the witch changed the prince into a toad. 3. To substitute another or others for exchanging for something else, usually the same kind. For example, she changed her shoes when she got home from the office. 4. To give and take reciprocally, interchange, to change places with someone, is a classic example. So therefore, you may be changing seats around in a classroom, here say, in an environment there, even though we know it's a liquidated valuation there of different changes that comes into play, sort of thing. 5. To transfer from one conveyance to another. Verb used without an object, however, change, changing. 6. To become different. 7. To become altered or modified. 8. To become transformed or converted, usually followed by into. A noun. 9. The act or fact of changing, fact of being changed. 10. A transformation or modification or some form of alteration of certain bits and pieces of methods that we always used to. They notice the change in his facial expression. 11. A variation or deviation, so therefore maybe here's a classic example is a change in your daily routine of what you go get up to. 12. The substitution of one thing for another. We finally made the change to an oily burning furnace. 13. The passing from one place, state, form or phase to another, or a classic example for this will be a sudden change of seasons, regardless of what we're modifying it. So here's an example here. For us New Zealand Kiwis, we just recently come out of winter, Noah, and spring. Excuse me. Right. Now, the question you'll be asking me, the typical ASB, obviously, why does autistics tend to don't like change? As I said, this will vary from person to person on the spectrum. Some will like change, some will be ready for change, some may not. Here's that. But in saying that, with the right form of methods and techniques to put into place from whatever stage we are in life, it can make life easier for us all. So, sometimes the first one is the main form of it is the security about the familiarities around everything that is around us. So we're so comfortable in our environment, we're basically liking what we're seeing, basically, new room with new couch and everything, and we're also all about the, changing into getting into that same routine and habit of routine and schedule of our everyday life, of regardless of what we do, get up, brush our teeth, get to work, do our stuff at work, come back again, make dinner and that. This can then, if change is done without being told within reason or without a form of control to why this is happening, of a certain change of situation, say a sudden death of a family maybe, then the autistic will go into a state of overdrive or panic, mountains and sensory overrides. Disliking change, however, is one of the most common symptoms with anyone who has autism. Anyone who has a vague idea of what autism is will likely to know that the autistic person often who has a routine does repetitive movements and is greatly distressed if not allowed to follow these little rituals. Just as a side note, reminder, however, not all change will result in a meltdown or shutdown period. It's on a sliding scale or spectrum, if you will, from mild to severe, but I also place them into groups on controlled, uncontrolled state and gradual, and or even consider the environments in which one is that is drastically escalating the distress of experiencing the certain stages of changes, and I'm clearly addressing to you today. And like most of these things, the stress levels can be raised by certain moods and illnesses. I'm sure that some other people I know of who are on the spectrum may be familiar with what I am saying and would agree with me to a point about the different stages of change that does take place for us autistics. I'll start off with mild change here. Say that we're in our home, something really familiar in a familiar environment, as I call it. The house, say, or a classic example as I shared before, you've got new furniture, you've got a new seating arrangement in your house and stuff, right? Because obviously this is the most familiar environment they have, because we all live there. Sometimes it can be a stressful place depending on what living at home is like for many of us, but for me it's the most comfortable place in the world. Sometimes it can be stressful depending, again, the moods and what's going on around the changes that I can't change despite of the circumstances, regardless, of people comes and goes out of the house, be it moving or they're just coming and going by choice, by just, doing their own personal thing. Mild change for me happens when I go to switch between tasks, however. So usually, as many people will know of me, back in the days when I was in high school, intermediate right through to uni, shall we say, that I usually am a most organised person with all the right notes and everything that goes about my day of doing it, scribbling down notes, taking down notes and highlighting notes. And usually some of the tasks that you see with me, if you know me, basically I tend to write them down and have a to-do list. Many people will hate me for that, and I'll tick off everything that's done in that list. This could involve any to-do list. It could be house chores, reminders to shower, maybe reminders of just like when I used to be in high school, polytech, intermediate, you name it, when I was transitioning from school to, different stages of school life. That's, say, I may have certain schedules of assignments to do, so therefore I'll have a to-do list of, or not just a to-do list, say, but a little gentle reminder for me on my phone, say, or we could say on my calendars or wall planners from that time, just to tell me when my assignment is due and what is expected of me, basically. Another one is it may involve basically some of my favorite TV shows that are on, reminders to eat and do the things I enjoy doing, be it doing my videos, be it reading, singing, drawing, whatever it may be that is in my common safe or peaceful environment of my familiar environment. Okay, sometimes now and again I'll admit that it's still hard for me to switch between some of the tasks that I'm doing at hand. Sometimes now I'm getting better with the multitasking, even though it's a real debate at the moment about, you know, females ain't good at multitasking or vice versa. I don't mean to be sexist here if you think I'm coming across right. I'm just saying, based on what I know and experience, that many people tend to be, well, shall we say, males tend to be really good at multitasking, or vice versa, they may not be. You know, I might find myself doing something just a bit too enjoyable, and then sometimes I just manifest it for quite some time, and then I get stuck on it, you know, they ruminate on it. The app switching leaves me a bit of discomfort and a bit of numbness, a feeling of, well, what am I supposed to do now kind of thought comes thing, to literally pacing up and down here, say, you know, and whatever else it may be. With knowing in the disruption process of it, you know that when something has changed, that then you will feel not anymore safe and secure in that environment, and of that familiarity as well, of what I'm saying, of that familiar environment. The next level of change is when someone wants to take me away from my special interest prematurely. It's not their fault. I know that they know probably for me I'm more self-absorbed into my favourite hobbies, interests, whatever it may be, and I'm not even mad at them, even if my little, you know, theoretical speaking or little rhinoceros huffs under my breath say otherwise. My special interests, however, are very important to me, like many other autistic. I can even be quoted by saying the only things that matter to me in life, and it does certainly seem that way. I may get into a different interest 3 or so months, or maybe even a year, depending, you know, what it may be. But at that very moment, that interest is all I am thinking and caring about. So when I'm taken away from this one true love of passion or interest for even a few seconds, I can become a bit irritable, not knowing what I'm going to do. And it feels like my whole world is collapsing around me when this is happening. The next level is sudden change in the home, here I say. This could be anything from going to eat something and finding that maybe I've run out of something in my cupboard, or being rushed to go out, or having unexpected visitors or unannounced visitors that doesn't even bother to text or ring me or what have you, because I'm a form of communication, or even wanting to wear something and find it's in the wash. I might get in a state of panic, however, a lot when I go to eat, or a sense of overload when I go out to eat, and we'll grab something on the go and find out it's not there, you know, ready to go. Sometimes it will take me a few moments to calm myself down. We've now entered into a panic, a substantial amount of irritable mood because of this, what I dub the uncontrollable change. I have no control over the situation, like many others, depending what it may be. Here's a classic example of a sudden death in a family or a friend. You know, then it's like, at the end, the result is usually a brief panic episode, or a feeling of wanting to lock myself in a room, far away until everything just fixes itself. But these things doesn't always fix themselves. It's all a matter of how we cope with our techniques of, you know, calm and zen and whatnot. But these things never, because in the shift of mood, however, it's so abrupt, and maybe even from the form of kicking a few cheese or snapping at people on the receiving end, will not look upon this muttering, moody brooder sympathetically. And if a violent meltdown is present, while I share my expanded vocabulary of every profanity in the English language I can think of, and compulsion to blame inanimate objects and unpredictable weather patterns on my outbursts, while I'm the one who gets yelled at for overreacting. Many people may think it's stupid, however, based on how my meltdowns begins or what have you. Many of my meltdowns are triggered by the rain. There was just a sudden change of season, however, okay, as well as my moods. Let's be real here and honest. You may seem it's a silly thing that something so common could completely throw me off my routine, or any routine that I had to put through my day or my schedule. But the rain makes a whole lot of difference to someone with autism. It could mean a quick walk into town that I wanted to do with friends or family could be postponed, or those clothes that I wanted to wear on a certain particular day that I planned out to wear won't be forever worn or can't be worn due to this weather, or even a delayed form of transport if I decide to go out from where I am would make me late or miss out on something very important to me. And if a storm's that further throws off my routine, that could mean that the satellite is off, so I miss my favourite programs, and instead I have to turn off my computer off. I'm not left with many other options here, you know. So therefore I might have a book to read, therefore, and a bunch of weak kids if need be that ran inside too late to be safe from the storm when I used to live at home. The next two levels up involve leaving the familiar environment and dealing with controlled and uncontrolled change. Controlled change could be something as small as changing my mind and there's not much stress. There's something that is greater than when I'm not at home, but it's not enough to start the chain reaction leading up to that meltdown period again. But uncontrolled change, on the other hand, is a whole new ball game, a new type of distress, and it has to be broken up into further gradual, sudden, and clusters. Okay, what I mean here, gradual change is when I mentally or even vocally try to get through the steps of what I have to do to cope with this in order for me to calm down and remain in my zen, in my zone. It's a way of understanding that there's nothing I can do to go back and I just have to accept it. Again, the classic example I shared with you all about if a sudden change, there would be a sudden death of the family. It can be anything from sudden panic to a pressure in my head back on, when you feel jealous or embarrassed, but you may feel like you're hitting someone to a sudden outburst. However, on the other hand, cluster change to define is when just a few too many things begin to go wrong when trying to adjust to the change, and eventually the slightest raindrop could send you into a murderous rage. But you just really hope it doesn't have to come to this. Usually this is accompanied by a shutdown, which is kind of like dissociating with the world, not being able to move or speak, or even feeling depressed, not having the energy to do anything. This latter shutdown, though, might not occur until a day or more after the event that caused me so much distress. Change in the uncontrolled environment, however, can lead to a panic attack that usually, when I get lost or I'm racing against the clock in the city, I will probably even have a panic attack or anxiety attack. Most of my meltdowns happen when sudden changes happen in an uncontrolled environment. Usually with a lot of sensory stimuli going on and growing feelings of stress and anxiety. Can sometimes last for days on end. These are the sort of internal meltdowns which may happen because having an outburst in the city isn't always tolerated. And that will eventually turn into a shutdown where I appear to become much more looking like autistic, even if people may think I look normal. I get told a lot when I come back from the city I'm in a real bad mood, maybe. Well, I have to disrupt my routine, go away from the safest environment, leave behind my special interest, be exposed to many sights and sounds and smells and touch and whatever else that seems so overbearing and overwhelming for me. And I have to go through so much stress and not to show it because people are usually not that overcome by these things like I am myself. Then I have to communicate with people that I don't even share with the same neurology with. So excuse me if I'm a bit irritable when I do get home and tend to ignore you. This is just a simple scale of change for me. It can be very mixed up. Usually the stresses of everyday things may accumulate over time, and the actual trigger for the meltdown has nothing to do with it, and other times the trigger brought on a sudden meltdown. This quickly ends the first part of the series of Autism and Change. Give me the like for thumbs up for support. If you want to journey with me as part of the YouTube family as always and want to learn more about autism and other conditions, then I'm hoping to bring out more of, as well as some funny games and hopefully whatever else I've got planned for the rest of this year and for the years to come. Feel free to subscribe on the bottom right hand corner of the screen, and while you're down there, don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you can be kept up to date of what I get up to with my journey. You can follow me also on my social media sites, hear me also if need be on my AspieAnswers, and share my videos with friends and family. Thanks for the support, thanks for watching, do what you love what you do. Until next time, Aspie signing out, and I'll see you again soon. Ciao for now.